we have a slightly changed lineup this week due to Nathan's absence, but we have a more than worthy replacement in Chris Green, who was on last week, and he did an excellent job for us. Welcome back, Chris. Hello, today we're revisiting ethics, and we're going to go through some news, and I don't even know if we're going to do a quiz this week, but roll titles. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm here today with Max, Chris Green and Chris Wilson, both of them previous panelists. What did you get in the quiz, by the way, Chris? Did you get the same as me? Chris Wilson.
I think I got 7.
No, you didn't. Don't lie, you got 6.
I got 6. Sorry, I got 6.
Oh, I thought you were the same as... Oh, yeah, 6. Oh, yeah, you are the same as me. Yeah, cool. If anyone wants to do the quiz tonight, you can do, but I don't think Max has done any questions.
We don't have a quiz for tonight, I'm afraid, because it would be unfair, because it'd be somebody getting an extra quiz.
There'll be a who's on? So Alan Ashby's on. Hello, all. Digital corals. Good evening.
Digital. What sort of coral? Are they like hard corals, or are they?
Well, digitate corals are finger-like.
That's like Montipora and Acropona.
Well, Montipora can also be
plating, like Palawanensis.
It's and encrusting. Montipora. Anyway, we won't go into corals.
We're not coral people.
Welcome, digital corals. Thank you.
Too much salt in the water.
Yeah. Speaking of which, actually, I've cleaned out my Red Sea Max tank today because I'm going to do black water in it.
Nice.
So that there, it wasn't doing anything. I was just growing macroalgae in it, and I'm a bit worried about electricity costs and all that sort of thing. And I've still got that little one there, so one is enough for me. So this one that's over here, I'm going to pimp it and just do like sand and botanicals. Max gave me some botanicals and some wood, and just completely change it. I'm here for my Gold North digital corals. We can talk Gold North.
I once saw a golden orf that had a right angle in its body.
Yes, it's quite common. We had that when I was a kid. Copper-based medications give them a kink spine. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Evening,
too tall,
too tall. Yeah, and I went down south once, and I went to visit the Tetra head office, and they were in this amazing building before they all got taken over and fired and everything. And it was on this chalk stream, and in the chalk stream were Gold North. And I went, "There's Gold North in there," and they went, "Yeah, we know." So somewhere down south,
not ideal, is it?
They're a wild Gold North.
Are they wild form called eyed? Is that right?
Yes. But these were gold.
Yeah. So okay. JW Aqua's here as well.
Good evening.
JW Aqua.
Chris and Max, do you want to do your song, or do you want to keep it private?
I think we'll keep it private until it's ready.
We need to finish it. We need to finish
it. Keep it private.
There's a few more choruses to do. Jeremy, how are your octopi?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask. Right. In a nutshell, if you haven't been watching, I got an octopus. Oh yeah, they're not called octopi, by the way. Colin Dunlop keeps pulling you up on it.
Oh, does he? What are they then?
Octopuses.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
I think octopi is still acceptable because you can also call them.
Oh wait, hold on a minute. Hold on. Is this like fish and fishers? If they're all the same type of octopus, would it be octopi? But if they're different species of octopus bundled together, then it would be octopuses.
I would reserve the judgment to Colin.
Okay, we'll leave it to Colin. Yeah.
He pulled me up on it, and he's written a book on them. So
sheep and sheeps.
Yeah. Whether or not he's covered it in his book, I don't know. Anyway, so timeline. 6 to 8 weeks ago, I bought a baby octopus, and I kept it in that little nano tank, and everything was cool. It had an insatiable appetite. It was only about the size of a baked bean with legs. It was like the size of a spider, really, a house spider. And I thought, this is great. And it ate loads and loads of river shrimp every day and loads of crabs. And then it never really came out anyway. And I thought, you're new, you're intelligent. It didn't like the dog barking, all that sort of thing. And it hid, but I gave it what I thought was a really good habitat. It comes from like rubble areas with macroalgae. That's exactly what I gave it. And it seemed really happy, but it never ever came out. Anyway, one day the river shrimp stopped disappearing. So I thought, you've either escaped or you're dead. So I took all the rocks out and the macroalgae. I lifted up the last rock, and underneath the last rock was the octopus flat on the floor. It made like a depression on the tank base. And underneath the rock was this chandelier of octopus eggs. And I thought, how's this happened? One, it was a baby. Two, is this parthenogenesis? I don't know. Anyway, well, they hatched. So they hatched last Sunday morning or the Sunday morning before that. And I came into this room and they were all kind of buzzing around, a bit like kind of Daphnia size, and a couple of hundred of them. And I thought, great, brilliant. What do I do? And I spoke to Colin. Colin said, you're not going to raise them. They're nearly impossible to raise. They're pelagic. They're too small. He couldn't get them to eat, and he tried everything, even rotifers. So I was like, oh. I said, but I'll try anyway. So I contacted my local shop, my marine shop, and I was lined up to get copepods, rotifers, what else? Anything and everything. Baby brine shrimp, everything. By the time I'd sorted that, all of them had gone down the filter, every single one. And then I thought, right. And then I had a think and a pause, and I thought, I'll just get them out. And I looked in the back, and they weren't even there. So they were gone within a few hours. So I'm I'm not distraught about it, but I'm kind of.
Yeah, it kicks you in the proverbial.
Yeah. I wasn't set up for it. It. I think I could have done a much better job. And I think because Colin then went, oh, I'm amazed your shop's even got all these live foods, because years ago when I did it, there weren't any. And I was like, well, I could do this then. I thought, I know Max Pedley. I can do this. I can get really live food all day long. So what I should have done is probably moved them, pipetted them or whatever, decanted them into another tank with no power filter, obviously, some air bubbles, and do the kind of pelagic thing.
Like maybe like
air in the corners, or even a chrysal, yeah. And I think with live pods and live rotifers in the water, I think I probably could have done it. But it took me completely by surprise. And then I thought, right, now I've got this. Now this mother octopus is gonna die. So I lifted the rock. She's 4 times the size she was. She's now like grape size with 4-inch arms each way. So she's got like an 8-inch spread. Still chocolate brown. I thought it would be like a white dead thing because it hadn't eaten. I thought it's just going to be mush. Anyway, spoke to Colin. Colin said, they can live for like weeks afterwards. So now I've still got this flipping mother octopus, and apparently they can still feed as well. So yeah, there we are. It's over in a flash. My short octopus journey. I knew it'd be short, but I thought it'd be like a year, and I didn't think that she'd lay eggs. But Colin says laying eggs is a good sign.
The brevity of an the brevity of an octopus's life.
The plan was I got the other bigger tank because I was gonna grow the octopus, train it, have some fun with it, and then move it into a bigger tank. But obviously that never happened. So there you go. Moving on. Should we do some news?
Yeah, let's do some news. Hold on then. Time for some news, isn't it?
The newly discovered 12mm long fish makes a noise as loud as a pneumatic drill.
Marine researchers were out looking for sharks the other day off the Canary Islands.
A massive halibut fish weighing over 200 kilograms.
Why are you called fish?
You teach him to fish. You give him no.
Fish news.
Hello and welcome to the news.
What news have we got?
So news is a bit scant this week, so I've done a bit of a hybrid mishmash thing again. So let's start off with this beauty. Come on, work. Add to screen. Come on. Oh.
Are you okay?
Max, get the rainbow fish up for me, please.
Hold on a minute. What's going on?
Aha! Right. Courtesy of our Scottish friend at Fish in the News. This isn't a species description. This is a discovery. So another beautiful undescribed Melanithania species is new to the hobby, collected in November 2025 from the Bomarai Peninsula, south of the Bird's Head Peninsula in West Papua, Indonesia. The entire peninsula is covered by a dense tropical rainforest, most of which consists of a marshy plain covered in lowland rainforest. There are small areas of montane rainforest in the Fak Mountains.
That's what I say when I stub my toe.
Yeah, it's what they say down south. And Kamawa Mountains along the peninsula's western edge, tentatively being called Melanithania species Rafkai after the collector. So, what do we think, lads?
Oh, it's a stunning fish, yeah.
Very stunning. Very nice. Typical rainbow fish, you know.
Yeah, very, very stunning. I've just seen some comments. Alan said, ooh, an 11. Denning said maximum score, but do you know what? I'm going to come straight out and I'm going to say it's a 7. And do you know what? I'm going to take pelters for that, but here's my theory. There's probably 60, 70 varieties of rainbow fish already available to the trade that you could have in your shop in a week that are equally, if not more beautiful than this, but they sit in a tank. They look fairly grey when they first come in and people just ignore them.
Yeah, I was literally going to say I would score it low on the
what more can you do? Rainbow fish are amongst the best looking fish in the country, and there is countless variants and species that are all stunning, and you don't see them in shops because people look at them and they go, "Nah, it's not immediate impact." I walk away. I'll buy a neon tetra. So for that reason, although I love this fish, I'm giving it a 7.
Okay. Yes, you're right, Max. And Max, Nathan, and myself have previously whinged about one of my pet hates is actually juvenile rainbow fish because they look awful. They just look rubbish. And like Max quite rightly says, they just sit in shops. You know, shops get them and they get sent tiny ones. And yet, if a customer brings in like coloured up rainbows, they'll last minutes or hours before someone buys them. You know, it's proven. Adult Basmani rainbows, even adult blues, adult reds, you name them, they fly out. Juvenile rainbow fish, they don't do it for me. They're completely wishy-washy and horrible. However, if I hadn't have known this species was new, well, it might not be new because it looks like lots of other rainbow fish species, doesn't it?
I guess what's that species?
It looks like the Sepik rainbow. It looks like the true Sepik rainbow.
I'm gonna have to Google that species that we're doing because it looks a lot like one.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean.
Yeah,
it's the classic. Pull your phone out and Google it to show a customer how.
Yeah, you've got to do, haven't you?
Yeah,
you've got to. You know, like you can have some really
all
nice fishing.
over this.
Yeah. They're a long-term investment, rainbow fish. You know, we all love them. I really love them, but I haven't got like 10 years to dedicate to them. Do you know what I mean? And it can be 10 years before you get the real hump back and the, you know,
I think
before they get to the size they should get. You know, you see a 6-inch rainbow fish every once in a blue moon, and you're like, wow.
It was species Calimoisi that I was thinking of.
Okay.
We've bred them a few times. They were big fry as well. A stunning, absolutely stunning fish. I went through a period. I don't know if you remember, Jeremy. I went through a period where I had about 6 or 7 tanks of rainbow fish, just weird ones. And they were a lot of fun. What I was doing: Sex Lineata, Cali Tower, Calimoisi, Van Hernay, and a couple others. And they are honestly some of the best fish you can keep. They're amazing fish. And there's so many varieties of beautiful rainbow fish. But like you say, people just see the juveniles and they go, meh, or they just end up like looking at all these beautiful fish and ending up with Bozemanai or incisors anyway. So that
see, I'll admit to falling into this trap. I have never really paid that much attention to rainbows. Because all I've ever seen is like you said, those kind of really drab juveniles that come in.
Yeah.
And you get customers come in occasionally and they'll be like, oh yeah, I keep rainbows, they're beautiful. And you're like, I'm struggling to believe you because I've never seen
you big tank from. They are a good hard water community fish though.
Not all.
No.
All of them, no, but yeah. I've been into too many shops though where you go in and it's just like Malawi's, it's tank of mixed rainbows, all nondescript.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
mix
quite
of
nice.
various species, and like you say, drab
There's a lot of
browns and
hybrids.
greys, and and the hybrids. I
A lot
kept
of hybrids.
some hybrids years ago just to see what was the issue and everything. And they were nice fish, but they did try and bully everything.
They're mental, those hybrids. They are.
Yeah.
Like, what do they call them? They give them a name, don't they?
What?
They
Some
call
bit,
them
the
pigeon
Singapore
bloods or
list.
something. They call them pigeon bloods, don't they?
Yeah, something like that.
They're actually really stunning fish, but they are complete pricks.
Yeah, they were.
Do you know?
They tried to pick on fish that were twice the size of them.
Yeah.
They try and spawn with other fish as well. I used to keep rainbows and Congo tetras, and the rainbows would get involved when the Congo's tetras would spawn.
What rainbows were they?
I just had the usuals. I had blues, reds. This is there wasn't. We're not talking.
It's really interesting
or anything.
It's really interesting looking into rainbow fish because, I see it on a lot of forums. It's just rainbow fish are hard water fish, and it couldn't be. There's a lot of blackwater rainbow fish. Way more than you'd think, and it's not just different genera. There's Melanotania that are blackwater. I'll give you an example. Praycox, the dwarf blue, it's a blackwater fish, and how many people would say no, it's alkaline? Is that? It's not. It's a blackwater fish. Same with Rubri vitata. Yeah, and you just assume that because it's a rainbow fish, it needs to be in like quite hard alkaline water, and that's where a lot of people go wrong with them and don't get the best from them. They wash out.
Hyco did do the Praycox rainbow biotope, and I believe it's biotope correct to have Java fern in with it as well. Microsoft
maybe
still Leptochilus.
Leptochilus, yeah, Leptochilus. I'll tell you another rainbow that's absolutely brilliant. Another blackwater rainbow fish that you should absolutely not sleep on is Radinocentris ornatus.
Yeah.
Peacock,
we used to have them.
Yeah, those are amazing.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got a few of the Pseudomugal that do well in softer water as well.
The thing that gets me about rainbow fish tanks, right? They're always a mismatch, aren't they? We go on about cribs in West African tanks and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Rainbow fish tanks. You've got fish from Australia with fish from Indonesia. You've got fish from creeks with fish from lakes.
Yeah.
It just.
I blame the 80s. And PFK is probably where a lot of it started in the 80s, and Croydon Pond Keeper. Whereas some articles, and then there was books as well, where they would say, keep these fish in these conditions. So hard water, like you said, but also add a teaspoon of salt or half a teaspoon of salt per litre or per gallon. Yeah. And like Max has said, some of them are soft water, black water fish. They're not hard water fish. So from the 80s, keeping them wrong.
The nicest rainbow tank that had rainbows in I think I ever saw. They've got a gharial Chester Zoo.
Yeah.
In that tank, there's some like lacustris. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful. They're massive. Then the boys are kind of like fully coloured up, chasing each other like no one's business. And then there's like this 8-9 foot gharial, just kind of like They seem more aggravated than he does half the time. And you're like, it's pretty cool.
I think that's what you need, though. Like I said, it's not just the time. You need a massive tank as well to do them justice because. Obviously, Praycox are quite small. There's some beautiful dwarf species, like what are the other ones?
Little ones.
Yeah.
McCulloch's small.
Yes.
6 in the air is not big. Cali Tower's not a big fish. Cali Tower, and that when that first sort of appeared on the scene, that was got really popular really quickly, and then just disappeared. But to be fair, I don't think it would have ever really taken hold in hobbyist collections because the fry out might use it to raise. But it was a beautiful fish, that, and quite small.
You're right. Right, let's get back to this particular fish then. You're right, Max. It's probably going to be really expensive as well. So you get these.
I reckon. I'm going to say retail price would be for like a 1.5 inch pair. You'd probably be looking at 25 quid for the pair, I reckon.
Well, that's not too bad.
Well, the thing is, if it comes in, it's going to end up at Maju Aquarium in Indonesia, right? Yeah. Because he gets all the rainbow fish. He's probably already got it, truth be told. And then he'll breed it. And then it'll go on at the same price as these other expensive rainbows. Most shops will put it up at about 25 quid a pair, I'd have thought.
Yeah. So pretty cool for the rainbow fish collector. I mean, if I was into rainbow fish, I'd have a field day in trying to collect as many species as I could. And I know I know Chris Green watches that Aussie guy, Simply Fish, is it, Chris?
Keeping fish simple.
Yeah, and the Australians, because they're not allowed so many fish, at the same time, they can just go out and just collect wild rainbows. Yeah. It's just awesome. These places they go to, there's crocodiles there and everything. It's terrifying. But yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. So out of 10, then Max is giving it a 7. Chris Wilson, you're giving it a...
I'm going to give it a 6, I think. Just purely from it's going to come in. If it does, it's not going to be this colour for you. And it's just going to sit there.
Chris Green?
Yeah. I'll say 6 again, because it's going to appeal to the hardened rainbow fish keepers. I don't think it, like Max said, I don't think it'll sell well because of the reasons we mentioned. They're going to come in.
It's not going to look like that, is it? It's
they're not going to like that.
No.
Can I tell you an irony in this? Is that when Bose Manai first came in, we were lucky that there were books, and it wasn't like that instant gratification time of the industry, if that makes sense. Yeah. So you'd look in a book and you'd see what it would turn out like. I think if Bose Manai appeared now, it'd fall into the same category. Bose Manai wouldn't be a household name in the tropical fish world because people wouldn't have the patience in this day and age. We're just lucky that older keepers know what it was, so they're always going to have it in the shop, and it's in most books. So at some point you're going to see a picture. But like if we switched roles, if this was the fish that was coming in at the time Bose Manai became popular, this would be the household one now because there'd be pictures of it as an adult. So
I think there's like a generational aspect to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
You go like you saw your grandparents maybe keeping these. And maybe other rainbows that are beautiful. So then you go and keep them. And then just keeps it moving.
Pictures in books. Bose Manai's in every book you can pick up. So it's going to be on all the wholesales lists. There's going to be pictures of it everywhere, and the old guys know how good it is. So it goes into the shops and it gets pushed. But I tell you now, I think this is a better looking fish than Bose Manai.
No.
But that's my opinion. Like obviously. Yeah. You know, but the point is, like, it is still a bright, stunning fish that should absolutely sell in shops. But we're all sat here saying it's not going to sell unless you get your phone out and show every customer how it looks, and you can't do that.
Well, they need to market it. They should call it like the Ember Rainbow or something, shouldn't they? You know, something fiery or flamey.
Someone will come up with a cool name, and then it'll sell like crazy.
Yeah, that's true. Names as well,
because that's exactly how it works. Yeah.
All right. So for that reason, I'm going to go for a 6 as well. Bob Meehan. Basmani was an absolute sensation when it arrived and would be now surely familiarity breeding contempt.
I don't think it's that big of a sensation now. I don't see it around as much. I'm not in the shop, so I don't know, but I don't feel like Bose Manai is as popular as it used to be. I genuinely don't.
They have to be in colour. They have to be in colour. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Rising Sun Rainbow. Yeah, that's not bad.
Volcano Rainbow.
Volcano works. Sunny D. I like it. Sunny D.
Fanta Rainbow. No.
Let's go for
radioactive Lucasade.
Yeah. Radioactive Lucasade. Rainbow fish.
The Devil's Anus Rainbow fish.
It's named. Okay, right. Max, this is going to get you. There's some mind blowing going on now. Anyone know what that fish is?
Yeah.
Go on.
Winnie Millerai.
Correct. Right. Also, courtesy of, you're going to have to sit back for this. This is quite deep, and I've just copied and pasted the whole thing. But there's a brilliant bit, Max, which is going to get you absolutely fired up. So, in a study of neotropical cichlid diversity, the complex evolutionary history of the Amazon basin makes the species radiation of the genus Geophagus a subject of profound research value. However, traditional morphological classification remains controversial due to convergent evolution. What's that?
When things are not that closely related but come together through environmental factors.
Thank you very much. Requiring more robust genomic evidence to define clear taxonomic boundaries. The study conducted a comprehensive analysis of the mitochondrial genomes of 5 Geophagus species: Spheni, Eltifrons, Wine Millerai, Abelios, and Tenioparius, confirming that all newly sequenced species belong to the Surinamensis complex. Well, we kind of knew that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
just gonna run 2 seconds to make sure some water's not overflowing.
Yeah, go on. Bob Meehan, I heard that Windy Millerai is it named after Windy Miller? Anyway, no, it's Wine Millerai.
It wasn't overflowing.
belongs to Cerenomyces complex and reaffirms the significant paraphyly, a taxonomic classification describing a group that includes a common ancestor, but not all of its descendants within Geophagus. Max, I'm glad you're back. Right. Specifically, the close relationship between Geophagus brasiliensis and...
Oh, yeah, that's not a Geophagus in brasiliensis.
Wait, and Microgeophagus.
No, that makes sense. Yeah,
really?
I like that. Yeah, 100%. I absolutely makes sense.
Knew that was coming then.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, for years, like a lot of people in the cichlid hobby have been putting Geophagus in inverted commas when they talk about brasiliensis because it just clearly isn't a Geophagus.
Well, mate, it's not clearly a Microgeophagus.
No, not
it's not
clearly
like 12 inches long.
No, but there's a lot of similarities. Things like pattern and behavior. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you look at like even Gymnogeophagus is very, very similar again.
Cool.
But absolutely, like this is what I'm talking about. Like there seems like there's two sides of the Geophagan group. The side that has like Biotodoma and Microgeophagus altispinosus, or more than two sides to it. There's a whole bunch of groups, but it absolutely makes sense that Ramirezii would be similar to brasiliensis.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
it's the number of Venn diagrams rolled into one.
There's another group of Geophagus as well, the one with Hondae and Steindechnerii, because that's clearly nothing like Altifrons and Winnemillerii and Steni.
Well, they're much more Saturnoperca like, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. And it makes and then on top of that, you've got the Pantherae group, which again is nothing like your typical Geophagus.
Mm.
But I don't know what the type species of Geophagus is, because in theory that should be Geophagus, and then the other ones should be something else.
Mm.
It's a shame Nathan's not here.
Yeah,
I once said to him that Microgeophagus altispinosa was, in my opinion, more likely going to fall into Biotodoma at some point.
So that's where Max copied it from.
No, I said it first. I said it first.
No, you did not.
I didn't actually. I said this ages ago. Chris, we can have a fight.
Acaricthis, there's another way. All right, Max.
Do you know who?
Where would you put Acaricthis?
Acaricthis' closest relative is Bioturcus, I believe.
Okay.
Is it No, sorry, no, I'm getting that wrong. I think it might be Dicrossus. It's something ridiculous like that. It's something absolutely ridiculous. Okay. Yeah, it's something that you would never think. I think Bioturcus is closely related to Satanoperca.
Anyway, the study goes on. Phylogenetic trees reconstructed from the 13 PCGs reveal taxonomic misalignments within the Cichlidae. We observed that Chaetobrancopsis bienniatus and Astronotus ocellatus clustered within the Cyclosomatinae and Geophaginae, respectively. An Oscar is a geo.
Wait, hold on.
Rather than within its traditional taxonomic placement. So, according to mitochondrial genomes, Oscars are Geophagus.
So they're in Geophaginae rather than Cyclosomatinae?
Correct. The observed topological deviations from traditional morphological classifications in our study highlight the complexities of cichlid systematics. You're not wrong. While such discrepancies are often attributed to convergent evolution obscuring morphological traits, we acknowledge that these results may also be influenced by methodological factors.
I can see.
If you go far enough back, you will find.
Go on, Chris Wilson. Go on.
I feel like if you go far enough back, you are going to come to that same conclusion again, where everything has that starting point. That's just evolution as we understand it. Is there is going to be one point, and it just depends how kind of you want to fit everything within that. Is kind of how close this stuff's going to be. You're going to find DNA all over the place, aren't you? That matches up.
Yeah. Do you remember that there was a guy who used to work in Ripple's Waterlife who'd been to the Project Biaba thing, and he always said to me how the DNA of different populations of cardinal tetras were more extreme than the difference in DNA between humans and bonobos. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but
no, I've said that to customers before when they're talking like I can put two types of tetra together and they'll be happy. And you go, well, you understand that you share more genetic material with a banana than a lot of these guys do with each other. So, you know, like, yeah, I think there is a fine line to walk between saying everything is the same and everything is wildly different.
It depends which way you go, because it's just tearing apart traditional taxonomy in that we did it kind of by counting things and observing things and measuring things and observations. And now I think it's safe to say that you can't group fish on looks alone, even on dorsal fin ray counts.
You can't. You absolutely can't, because, for example,
is a very strange thing.
Us and Jeremy Beadle wouldn't be the same species if that was the case. Things change, mutations happen.
I think he had the same number of digits, though, so he would.
I don't think he did. I think he had one missing.
On the other hand,
very good, Chris.
And that's why you're here to replace Nathan.
But
hang on a minute. Wait a minute. We got an ichthyologist.
That's mDNA, not just DNA.
mDNA.
Yeah, mitochondrial DNA.
Right.
Because it's a smaller sample, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve.
I wouldn't pay too much weight to mDNA. Treated with caution. It says mTDNA. Yeah, mDNA. Yeah, MDMA. Yeah. Anyway, meteorite sterilized the area 65 million years. Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. And South America and Central America were pretty darn close. It hit Central America, didn't it?
It was, yeah. Do you know what? It's really weird. There's a visitor centre that it narrowly missed.
Narrowly missed it. Yeah, it's amazing how it did.
Yeah. We've lost Chris Wilson.
He looks like he's gone into a black hole or something. Anyway,
meteorite.
Yeah,
that's how heavy he is.
So I don't know where to go with the whole DNA thing because I don't understand it enough. But I think it continues to completely tear apart the ichthyology that we've known over the past 200 years.
I think the bottom line is, look, if you're into evolution, the way to look at it is all life is kind of like, let me just bring him back. All life is like, think of it as like a tree, and the current life is like the outer buds, the newest growth, right? And we're like the galaxy. It's just expanding. Life's expanding and radiating off. Stuff dies off, but then other stuff, whatever. We all know that. That's the tree of life or whatever. So there's going to be holes, there's going to be spaces, and what can we do but look at the DNA to find out who has common ancestors most recently? And that for me, as not a scientist and somebody who probably shouldn't even be talking about this because I don't know enough, but for me, that's way more than looking at a fish and going, well, it's got the same bone as another fish that has a bone here, so obviously they have to be related, because at the end of the day, mutations occur. And if it's not the same gene, just because it has the same feature, then clearly they're not that closely related. And I think it's good that we can be so spot on with using DNA. Like Steve says, mDNA is maybe not the best because it's only a smaller sample, but if it's better than, it's still for me better than looking at a fish and go, well, it looks similar.
I suppose South American cichlids, GFA gines and Oscars are in the same waterways. So if you go back down your tree, ancestral cichlid species would have been. They both have a common ancestor, don't they?
Yeah, of course, somewhere. But it's finding out where that is, because all cichlids have a common ancestor. But doesn't mean they're all closely related.
It's kind of isolation and hybridization. That's what fuels evolution. So it makes sense that you will have a common ancestor with all of them, which may be interbred with something else, which may be interbred with something else. So they share these small traits between each other. But that, I guess, and again, like Max said, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you can't. I don't think you can take a small sample and then go, oh, okay, that must be related to this. It seems, it seems overgeneralized. If you go, all fish that share this specific sequence of DNA, they're all related. That seems, that doesn't quite seem to fit how I would understand it anyway.
Another thing as well, I've literally just forgotten what we're going to say. No, it'll come back to me. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, it's coming. Let me summon it.
So going back to that rainbow fish speciation is definitely down to isolation and probably hybridization. You can just see how say Melanotania have exploded into lots and lots of new species from various isolation and from crossing with each other, I would say.
That's what I was going to say.
all it takes is for like 2 or 3 species to get stuck in a lake, and you probably end up with 10. Like,
or one.
Yeah, it depends on the family, doesn't it? If you, it depends what
I imagine if you looked at like Lake Tanganyika, actually, if you took the mitochondrial DNA of like Bulungochromis and I don't know, the Lamprologus, you'll probably find some similarities.
Yeah. Well, there's with the there's Lamprologus in Tanganyika, but there's always also freshwater Lamprologus, so they do come from different places as well.
Freshwater, they're all freshwater.
I mean, sorry, riverine Lamprologus.
Well, it was an ancestral riverine species, so but we know this about Tanganyika and about Malawi. This is that was adaptive radiation, isn't it? It's adaptive radiation.
Makes sense. What I was going to say is, as one thing to note as well before we move on from this, is that as humans we do like to categorize and put lines in places, but realistically, who are we to say to say where we split a genus? For example, like in the grand scheme of things,
looking for faces in clouds, I think is probably a
good thing. I mean, I personally like it. I'm playing devil's advocate there. I like to be.
I love the side of taxonomy that is putting animals in order. I love that.
Yeah,
I love
because and it's like we talked about before. Evolution,
the chaos.
We only put it in order for now because these things are still changing. We're just like trying to categorize everything now, but then in a few million years, it's all going to be different anyway. Everything will move along and change. Yeah. So it's like we like to put these lines in. We say, well, you're this and you're that, and they obviously are different. But who's to say how different? Really,
I think it ties in quite nicely, going back to the rainbow fish, with the idea that if we're saying that these guys are all grouped together, the care must all be the same.
Okay, we've got a question. Bob, I've not had the chance to look, but does the recent breaking up of corridors have a geographical bias, i.e. all Hoplosoma live in relatively close proximity? And the answer is...
No.
So, it continues to baffle us, but I quite like it. And we've all got opinions, and sometimes we're right and sometimes we're wrong, but it's kind of, is DNA ultimately going to split everything or group everything or be roughly the same number of species? I don't know.
Both. I think it'll split and group at the same time.
You think it'll just reorder everything? So,
I think we're just getting
a finer picture. You base taxonomy like in the 1800s and the 1700s compared to now, and how many species have been split, but a lot of the work that's been done is based on the original work. So we're just literally getting the finer details down.
Yes. Yeah. So,
it'll be the same as
it's helping us split things, but at the same time, helping us group things. Yeah.
You can revisit the type specimen, and also a lot of old defunct genera are resurrected as well, aren't they? That were in synonymy, and then they kind of go, well, anyway, I don't. Oh, an ichthyologist. DNA is quite complicated as each gene can produce a different phylogeny. Some are more reliable than others. There are also different methods to produce different trees with pros and cons. Yeah, I'll continue to be confused. And
we need to work out a way to use them all in conjunction. Yeah. That's the human state, unfortunately.
For me, I mean, the whole thing is that, one, they said that Geophagus brasiliensis and Microgeophagus are close.
I like that. I actually really like that, and I believe, and I can see it.
Which is cool.
Genuinely see it.
And then Oscars float around, don't they? I mean, they're in lots of different... I think I read somewhere they were related to, like, Heros at some point or something in the Hero. But,
it's weird. I can see the link to Cheetah Branchus because they've got quite a similar jaw. They're both kind of basket mouthed. If you look at how an Oscar's jaw actually works, it's very different to a lot of other cichlids.
Yeah.
But again, that's just looking at it on face value. But I tell you something now. Waru Fernandezii.
Yep.
Shouldn't be Waru.
Oh, go on then.
Well, I just don't think it should. I don't think it has. I mean, I'm going on looks alone.
Adults. What are you saying? Like a Heros or something?
Which, by the way, I think it's really hard to say that alone. But I think you can look at a fish and go, well, they surely can't be in the same genus. Because if the phenotype's that different, then it's probably fair to say that they deserve their own genus that's away from it.
They are in a different watershed.
I know it's not,
as well, aren't they?
Yeah, but if you look at Fernandez Yepesite, it actually, this is what I think is crazy. I'm not saying it should be in this genus, but it shares a lot more similarities to Heros than it does Waru.
Stephen Grant, rather, they're used in conjunction. The revision of Corridoradinae was based on combined alpha taxonomy and genomic DNA. I think quite a few are now. Rebecca goes on, different groups can have different ideal genes to produce a reliable tree. There are loads of models. Super trees and super matrix is a method of using loads of different genes to produce a tree. But then you get one species which has totally lost that reliable gene, or it's very different from relatives, inferring a further distance than is true. Flipping heck, it's a big subject, isn't it? It's a really, really big subject. But yeah, cool. Anyway, moving on.
What's next?
This is new. Loricaria Catarina and Loricaria tetii. 2 new species of whiptail catfish are described from the middle and lower course of the Munim River and the middle and lower sections of the Itapecuru River in Maranhão State, Brazil, respectively. So 2 new whiptails from Brazil. What are we thinking? Obviously, they're dead. They're dead.
Yeah. If they're kind of looking like that, I can't see them selling well.
I mean, they're going to be similar to like species Atabapo, I'm guessing.
Okay.
They look a similar body shape.
Stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, they look a similar body shape. I don't know what the patterns are like. I think they'd probably be like they're a nice fish. I think they'd sell depending on the colour and the pattern. I still think they've got mileage because it's a whiptail. I think
whiptails always do well, don't they?
Yeah, I give it a 7.
7. Chris Green.
Yeah. I'll go 6.
I'm going to give it like a 4 because they just kind of hide in the sand and the gravel and they get overlooked. And,
yeah, but these don't. Loricaria don't, do they? They sit out and about. They don't dig.
Do they not?
No, Loricaria don't dig really. Yeah.
The ones I've had have always never really hidden.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they're happy to just sit in plain sight.
5 from Alan. I'm going to go for. I'd like to see one in life, to be honest, to make a better judgment on it.
Have to see what color, what its adult colours are, what its true colours are.
Mm.
I imagine it'd still be a brown colour, like all catfish. Yeah. Every single catfish.
Dull brown.
All brown. All catfish are brown. I will simply not change my mind on that. Nobody can change it on that.
50 shades of brown.
If it's not brown, it's not catfish.
50 shades of brown and another new fish from Brazil. So that takes our tally. I haven't been counting it, but India, China, and Brazil. Brazil is on fire at the moment for new species.
That's not good. They shouldn't put it out.
It's flying. Yeah. The forests are on fire. Anyway,
probably that's all the logging.
Exactly. Let's call it the flame whiptail. Anyway,
cool.
Moving on.
Ooh.
Now, this came up on my feed this week. It's a beautifully shot picture by our friend Chris Lukout. Vilmi, but Max, you may have some data on this. This is CF Vilmi.
All right, okay.
Why?
Is Vilmi Hypsobricon still? Did that not get changed?
It is.
Or is it still Hypsobricon?
They're still calling it Hypsobricon CF Vilmi.
The body shape looks very, very different to Vilmi.
Is it deeper body?
I remember Vilmi being a little bit longer, but I could be remembering Vilmi wrong. It's a long time since I've seen it.
What can you tell us about the fish, Max? You know anything?
Well, not this fish in particular. I'm just let me refresh my mind on Hypsobricon Vilmi. I kept it once, twice, never spawned it though. But I just Vilmi was for me a longer fish, not nearly as deep. I don't know. It looks closer to like the cyanostyle, like the blue ribbon group to me.
Yeah,
in terms of body shape.
Lapis,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The pattern as well. The band's the same width, the same dimensions. I don't know. It's just for me. It's not giving Vilmi at all. I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
Certainly from a visual perspective, I think that kind of striking black line with the red above it. You do kind of at first glance, you would be mistaken for saying it was. I think.
Are they going to be a bit fiery to each other? Do we think? Are they going to do some sparring, or are they going to be?
They'll show off, but I don't think they'll be nasty. I think it's a lovely fish. I think it'd be absolutely stunning under an LED, something like that. I think it'd really pop. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I like it. It's a nice fish.
Right, I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah,
I'd go with that.
I go 7.
Yeah.
I go 7 just because I think it's going to be expensive. It's going to be a 10 quid fish until it'd be a 10 quid fish in the shops realistically. And for what it is, it's going to go to people who want to show off, or they've fallen in love with it, or they're a collector.
It looks like, to me, it's a good aquascapers fish to stand out. And one show of them in a George Farmer.
I'll stick with the 7. I personally like it. I don't think it's got mileage like other Carasins do in the trade, but it's still a nice fish, and it'll be easy as well. It'll be really easy to keep.
6 from Alan. Okay, that's quite a high score. I mean, yeah, it just appealed to me because it's shot so well as well. It just looks beautiful. It's obviously far tinier than that photo, but beautiful photo. And I always appreciate a good photo of a nice, healthy fish with its fins erect. So yeah, it's just appeals. And obviously I'm shopping for Blackwater stuff as well. So yeah, cool. Anyway, that brings an end to this week's news.
Old.
News is done.
No more news ever again.
No fish.
So, ethics. Nathan's not here. So, Nathan...
But I did speak to him during the week and ask him what he was going to talk about.
Right, go on then, Chris.
So, Nathan wanted... Oh, it's really sad that he's not here, I'll be honest.
We wish him all the best, but apparently the cast of Avengers visited him today. So I'm a little bit concerned.
Don't you'll worry me. He wanted to talk about responsibilities of shops, which I'll be totally honest with you. Before we came on, I decided to try and educate myself on some of this ethics stuff.
Okay.
I think, and if Nathan's watching, I'm going to apologise if I'm wrong. I think this is going to fall into deontology, which is focuses on duties and rules.
Yeah.
So we're talking about kind of what we're talking about here. The core idea of this stuff is like, don't lie, don't steal, keep promises, treat people fairly.
I don't do any of that.
And how that fits into kind of what shops should be doing when it comes to making sure that, one, we're looking after the fish, and 2, we're looking after the customer, because at the end of the day, it's them that are going to keep the hobby going. So we need to make sure that these guys are being set on the right path. We need to make sure that we're not shafting them and maybe giving them information that's going to, in the long term, be negligible to the stuff they're trying to keep, because they've come to us with an interest. So yeah, how this stuff all fits in, and Nathan would say something really philosophical here, but I'm just going to say, let's talk about it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I can kind of see it from both sides. I mean, I think as avid hobbyists, we all kind of do our own research at the same time. So, there's a massive spectrum of skill and experience, isn't there? So one customer has never, ever kept a fish before, and you need to start absolutely at the basics. And, if you don't derail it, if you don't stop them from buying every fish in the shop, they will try and buy it, big or small, predatory, whatever. So there's all that. But then at the same time, are we not selfish in that we've kind of kept those things to then kind of say, well, no, don't keep it? I don't know. What do you think?
I think the hobby as a whole is built on a lot of successes, but also a heck of a lot, probably a hell of a lot more failures from people keeping fish wrongly, and then having that huge learning curve time and time again. So from like sort of someone who wants to keep fish, they're going to go in. You got multiple different people. You got people who are going in because they've won a goldfish at a fair. People who are going in because they want a little tiny fish tank set up on the desk or a piece of furniture in the house. They're going in, and then you've got all the way to the other side of people where it's people who are passionate about fish and want to replicate a specific area of, a river or a stream or a lake or the seabed that they've seen, wherever. So we've got to go in as like, all of that, you're coming along, and you go into the shop, and the first thing the shopkeeper says to you is, right, well, is your tank set up? Well, yeah, I was going to buy it now. Or you can't set it up now. But then you've got other shops that will say, your tank's set up, you're going to and buy it now. Right, well, there you go. And they'll sell you the tank and the fish. There's no consistency. And I think that's what we need, is consistency going across the board.
It's tricky, though, with the invent of bacterial starters, though, isn't it? Because some bacterial starters, as one I used when I was at Fine, is called Goop. And it is instant. It is instant. And it needs fish. And so that is the one where you go, look, don't put it in yet. You know, because there's this thing when we always say leave the tank for a week, right? Put your bacteria in, leave it for a week. It's not doing anything. It's not. It's not doing anything. You know, that bacteria is not doing anything for a week. So you've got different types of bacteria and different starters. And unfortunately, from shop to shop, you know, one reputable shop will say, don't put anything in the tank for a week. The next reputable shop may have something like Goop and go, you could probably put something in it tomorrow. As long as it's heated and dechlorinated and you put your bacteria in when you put your first fish in. So, you know, which one's wrong? It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. You've got off-the-shelf like products, like you say, there's Goop. There's others out there. Some work, some don't. Some are just snake oil.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, as Chris will know, you know, when you work in a shop and you're testing ammonia and nitrite hundreds of times a week for people, a lot of them, they've put the market-leading bacteria in and they come in and go, da-da, I'm ready. And you're like, yeah, you got nitrite. And they're like, but I put that product in that you said. You're like, you can't have any fish today. So, yeah, it's that happens a lot still, you know, and bacterial products have been out for, 25 years?
So what do we think the moral duties of a fish shop are? What are we putting as like a bullet point kind of, you need to tick these boxes?
You've got to be honest with them. You've got to tell them what you know about each and every fish. You've got to tell them a truthful size. You've got to tell them whether it's going to be tricky to keep or not. And you've got to tell them whether it's suitable for their tank. You know, that is absolute, you know, every shop has to do that. If you don't, you're probably a bad person. You know, if you don't tell someone that, I don't know, a Pimlodus pictus is going to eat their neon tetras, then you're either ignorant and you're new and you just don't know that, or you know and you don't care, and you know you're a bad shop.
And I think that hits two things there, and I think that hits kind of treating people fairly and not lying. Yeah, you need to make sure that you're educating the person enough, but not nitpicking and kind of gatekeeping the stuff you don't want them to keep because you don't think that they're ready, or you don't think that they're going to be able to look after that. Because I mean, you know, you could have someone come in who doesn't maybe look like a fish keeper. Actually, they've done it tenfold longer than I have.
Yeah, you can't prejudge, can you? That's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you can be talking to someone about, you know, something quite high level, you know, some disease issue, and the next person you have. And I think the bad retailers are the ones who treat everyone like they're the 10,000th customer and kind of lecture them and say, you can't have this, you can't have that. When, like you say, Chris, you know, it could be one of us four walking in a shop who actually knows quite a bit or more than the average. And they could just be like, you're not having it. You know, like me when I was in that Pets at Home, you know, they just said, you can't have those 5 fish. I was like, well.
So I can give you a proper example of this, right? I went into a shop, and I'm not going to say which shop it was. Now, to people who know me and have seen me in person, I am quite covered in tattoos, right?
Okay.
It's not uncommon for me to walk around in shorts and t-shirts.
Believe it or not, it doesn't have a face. It's just tattooed on.
I was going to say, is that
blank
head?
It's a blank head and it's tattooed eyes on. And
stuff. The teardrops and stuff I make up over to make sure people don't obviously judge me too hard. But I promise you, I will walk into a fish shop and I get some wild stuff. Like I'll ask for things, or I've asked for things in the past and be like, no, I don't really like. Maybe look at something like this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to put stuff in my 1,500-litre tropical pond, and they're like, oh, okay, fine. And then like they judge you as soon as you walk in, and you're like, oh man, that kind of sucks. I don't really want that. I mean, I also get followed around shops because I think I'm going to steal and stuff, but that's,
Well, you do.
Don't steal. Don't steal, obviously. So, that's pretty bad. But yeah, I think...
At the same time, on a similar kind of, at the other end of the spectrum, I feel sorry for female aquatic shop employees that blokes don't take seriously or rate as in any way knowledgeable. Do you get that thing where you're stood next to a female colleague and they'll talk to you? They won't ask her; they'll talk to you.
I used to have the same thing. So I started working in the shop when I was 17.
And you're a woman.
And cheers, thank you. I can be anything I want in this day and age. So thank you for that. Anyway, it'd be the same thing. Like my manager used to get me down to talk about fish because I could talk about fish all day, and he knew I knew a bit. And he'd say, "I'll get Max." So I'd come down. Oh, what do you want to know? Oh, tell me about this epistogrammer. And my manager would like poke about just to listen, and they'd be asking him, and they'd be like, "No, I don't know. Ask him," and they just wouldn't ask me. It was like, no,
it's that. Yeah, so it's that classic.
It's an age thing as well.
Age
I've been keeping fish longer than you've been alive.
Yeah.
It's that really gripes you, and you kind of go, "I understand you've been keeping them 20 years, but that doesn't necessarily mean you've done it right."
Correct.
But what I will say is, every single shop has had, and Jeremy, I've had this discussion with you before. Every single shop has got or has had that young male bloke.
Every shop has an alpha male,
and he's like usually like 18 to 22, sometimes older, and he thinks that he knows everything. He's arrogant, a bit of a dickhead, just wants to say no to you to prove that he knows more. And look,
I know more than you do.
I think I was probably that bloke for a bit. Chris, maybe you have been. Jeremy, maybe you have been.
Cichlids, yeah.
Do you know, we've probably been that person that somebody comes in and you just go, no, you don't have the tank for that.
Yeah.
So what, when customers go into shops, what do they want to talk to that guy who's frankly going to be a dickhead?
But then it was interesting when I came back into retail, because I used to be that person going, this fish is not for you. It's a rare fish. You can't have it. I don't want you to have it, right? With snobbery. Yeah. Now I'm like, there's no such thing as a bad question or a wrong question. People, right back to the beginning, right? People will buy an aquarium and they'll come back and they'll go, do I need to turn the light off? And, 20 years ago, I'd have gone, get out. Get out. You're not keeping fish. If you don't know, if you tell me you've had that light on for a month, you're in trouble. Anyway, now I'm just like, right, because they don't know. And you say, well, you can have it on for 8 to 10 hours if you've got plants. And if you haven't, then, ambient room light is fine and you'll get less algae. And you've just got to take, like Chris Wilson says, you can't assume stuff and you can't patronize, and you've just got to take every single one as honestly and as nicely as you can, I guess.
Yep, 100%.
So when we look at the sort of the moral duties. Oh, hello, Dom. When we look at the moral duties, how are we keeping promises?
Pinkies.
How are we keeping those promises to the customer? Is that kind of like is it trust? Are we keeping those promises because we are? I'll explain this. Are we keeping those promises because we are going, look, trust what I'm saying, and actually I'm gonna help guide you through this? Or are we kind of going, you can keep that stuff, trust me, it'll be fine? Where is what are we doing that kind of encourages that trust, I guess?
Yeah, it's hard because there's no gauge for how good of a fish keeper you are. There's no gauge. It's literally just trust me, bro, science. That's the entirety of it. It's just,
you're right.
Just trust me.
And now, so someone's just mentioned it. You've got AI. So now they go, well, ChatGPT said this. And straight away, I'm just like, we'll go with ChatGPT then. But then you think, no, hang on. They don't actually trust the retail staff now because they've got something in the palm of their hand that says X. Yeah. And you're saying why?
It's not just AI. I think you've got like YouTube and TikTok, especially where from other countries where the fish keeping ethics can be very, very stupid. I get fed up with the number of things I get on Facebook and that where it's someone live feeding particular fish to another fish for likes and clicks, for clout. And and then you got people coming in like to a shop, and I've overheard it when I've been in shops where they're saying, "Well, I've seen it on such and such place. You know, this fish keeper, he's keeping them, and I want to keep the same." And then thankfully, the people working in the shop have said, "Well, you can't." But you know, because I've never worked in fish shops, but I've frequented enough, and I've picked up on enough conversations.
Do you know what? What I think is a good thing for a shop to have to prove to customers. A couple of good displays makes a big difference for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people really look past that. If a shop has good displays, clean displays with healthy fish, you're going to go, "Oh, they know what they're doing. They've got a bit of something about them."
Yeah, and even more so with marine, you know, you've got to show someone you can grow corals, otherwise, you've got no reference point, have you? But just on Chris Green's point, you also get at the other end of the scale, and Max's point about you know, the kind of alpha males. You get alpha male customers as well, the macho customers who, like Chris Wilson says, "Listen, mate, you know, I've been doing this for years. I don't, you know." And you'll go, "Have you tested your water?" "Listen, mate, my water's fine." And you're just like,
"How big is the tank?"
You haven't told me what your levels were, you know. And you can then you get into this kind of macho thing, and you're going, "Probably your water."
Do you know, it's funny is that dynamic, because the macho customers either get on really, really well with the macho staff member, because you have sort of like this for all intents and purposes a kind of an enjoyable dick measuring contest. Where they're both like, "Yeah, well, I had a tank this big," and they go, "Oh, he must be cool because he had a big tank. I had a tank this big," and then you go, "Oh, he must be cool because he had a big tank." And it gets bad. Oh, like you say, it's butting heads. Because it's, "No, you can't keep that fish." "Yes, I can. I can keep that." "No, you can't keep that fish." Yes, I can.
Yeah, and then as the retailer, you have to be this super flexible, because that kind of macho guy, he probably keeps Jaguar cichlids, right? So then you lower your voice a bit and you go, "Oh, all right, mate. Yeah, well, you're like this then, you know. What about this catfish over here? It gets massive." And he'll go, "Oh," you know, and it's kind of, and then the next customer will come in. You need to completely change and go, "Well, actually, this platy's, you know, too big for your 20-litre nano tank." You know, it's just kind of... You have to be this kind of actor as well, don't you? It's really weird.
It's sales, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's salesman. That's what you are. It's super tricky. It really is. Been there, done it. It's really, really, really hard.
And that ties in nicely to the idea that we need to treat people fairly.
Yeah,
we need to cater for everybody. So, just rolling back a little bit with everything that's just been said, do we think that we are now too connected? We can see too much stuff. So things that they do in other countries, which either we physically don't have the access to that kind of, like, maybe hardware.
I don't think we're
all kind of different practices.
I don't think we're too connected. I think the problem is that we don't have the hardware in our heads to deal with that much information. Because, like was said earlier on, we because there's so much information coming at us, instead of taking it all in and dealing with it, we just take in the bits that we want to hear.
Yeah,
and we miss out a lot of the important parts.
I used to say back on the forum, like when we'd have forum, like, look at all the sources of information you've got and pick out the bits that align. So you could have 20 different viewpoints, but across those 20 viewpoints, you would usually have information that was consistent.
Yeah,
and just like we've said, the chat said, it's consistency. Consistency is the key. So if shops like Maidenhead a fairly consistent approach across the board, but then you can go to an independent one and you can get something that's totally against the grain, or you can go to like an independent one that agrees with that same consistency from Maidenhead, and it's, you know, all the signs up to OATA and have got their standards.
Ethan Wright says, when I was 16, I had a massive burly guy. What?
Yeah, sorry, Ethan, I didn't mean to upset you like that.
Yeah, I had a massive burly guy that was 6'5", start threatening me quite aggressively because I wouldn't sell him a pair of... I'll tell you what, right? I've had threats from some customers, and it used to all be piranha customers. So you know, like dangerous dog people, you get dangerous fish people, you know, who wanted to feed, and that, like Chris Green says, it's the live feeding thing, and they were piranha customers, and both of them kicked off. One because a member of staff sold some piranhas that were reserved for him, and the other one because I think he put a pleco in and then decided he didn't want the pleco or something. And I was like, I told you not to put the pleco in anyway. And then he just completely lost it. And he just like, I just remember thinking, both of you are piranha people. And, you know, it just kind of shows your character and what you want to keep.
Do you want to know what the most abuse I got from a customer?
Go on.
Was actually from somebody who is fairly well known in the trade. Not in the trade, in the hobby.
Can I guess?
But, you can guess, but I'm not going to say if you're right or wrong.
No, I'm not going to say any names. So we can all think Nathan. Of a few people.
It was Nathan.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. So this guy who I sort of knew, I was still quite fresh at the time. I'd been working the shop about a year, but I was still a fish keeper, had my fish room, bred a lot of fish, that sort of thing. And the guy came in and he said, have you got any CW? And I can't remember which number it was.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say maybe 61, one of the saddle-backed corries.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in and he said, have you got any of this corrie? And I was like, no, we don't stock too many of the rarer ones. And he went, you don't even know which one it is. And I was like,
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And I described it perfectly. And he said, no, you're thinking of a different one. And I was like, no, I know exactly what I'm thinking of. He then turned around to me and said, I know Ian Fuller. Right. And I was like, right, okay. I've met him a few times, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And he sort of like got really cross and he went, oh, whatever. You don't have that corrie. I'll go somewhere else, whatever. And I was like, well, you knew we didn't have that corrie because it was like a rare species that doesn't really come in much. So I knew from the start it was like he'd come in to sort of like prove himself, if that makes sense, and make somebody go, oh wow, whatever. And he's like, seen me, look young, let's go after him.
Yeah. So, it's that thing when they look at you and go, do you know what you're doing? And straight away, you just
obviously, like, yeah. So he got annoyed that I knew what it was. So anyway, he came back a couple of weeks later, honed in straight at me.
Yeah,
I want 2 angelfish, and I was like, all right, okay. And I thought, I'm not even gonna like. I know he knows that I keep fish, so which angelfish do you want? These 2 here. Okay, bag them out. Bagged perfectly. I'm quite good at bagging fish. I've done a lot of it, and I still bag stuff now, so I'm quite good at it. Well bagged, 2 nice angelfish. There you go. Have a look. They're all right. Yeah, all sorted. Yeah, okay. Bosh, in your bag. Disappear. 3 days later, a nasty email, like a really, really nasty email. Too young to be working there. Doesn't know how to treat fish. I've got home. No water in the bag. The fish's fins were shredded. This, that, and the other. He can't be trusted with bagging fish. This, that, and the other. And he'd like emptied a load of water out, so there's a tiny little bit of water. The fish are on the sides and that sort of stuff. They're still in fine health. I mean, I know they were bagged perfectly. And my manager came up and he went, and he's looked at me and he's like, "Is that right?" And I'm like, "No, I bagged them perfectly. I always do." And he was like, "Yeah, fair enough. He's a bit of a dickhead, that guy." And I was like, "Yeah." So it was just like this thing where he's out for me. And Steve Grant knows who this bloke is, so don't tell anybody, Steve, who it is, but you know who it is. And for like the last few years of being in the industry, he would just constantly come for me with random stuff, and it was like so childish that this grown man wanted to go after a teenager, and it was like this vendetta that wouldn't end. It was crazy.
It's sad because, you know, you're kind of arguing and butting heads over fish when you've actually got a lot in common. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And like, if he'd have started that conversation differently, do you know what I mean? You probably would have got on really well. Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that he's done it to quite a few people apparently, and that's why he's not really about much now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just round that out, and I'm gonna set you guys with a task now. So there's a principle in deontology called categorical imperative. So act in ways only that you'd be okay with everyone doing. And if a rule doesn't work universally, it's not moral. Okay. So between the 4 of us, a set of rules that we think as hobbyists and people who work in shops as well, or have worked in shops in the past, should be applied to every single shop. And that could be literally anything, but things we think, and it goes back to that consistency, is what needs to become consistent.
I would say the information that customers are given for all setups and for each fish. So if that needs that, like all shops, every shop signs up to a code of practice and to a background Bible. It doesn't have to be too in depth, but just literally, these are the parameters that this fish can live in safely, adequately, where it's not just surviving but thriving. Go from that, and that should be a starting point. So most fish we've got fish base, or there's a basic thing there that this fish will live in this type of water. So that's what people should keep fish to the water that comes out your tap where possible. And that's the basic start.
Okay, fine. So my one would probably be, there needs to be a concrete list of fish that we are deeming suitable for the hobby and fish that we are not. Mm-hmm. Everyone agrees on it. So you can't have that customer who goes, well, I bought a brachyplastoma from the shop down the road and they said it would be fine in my 50-gallon tank. Because one of two things is going to happen there. You are going to have to inform the customer that the other shop has lied. And you're then not going to be able to treat them as fairly. Because you now are going to go, you got told you could have all this stuff, but I'm now going to say no. Because in my opinion, you can't keep that. I think there should be kind of a concrete list, regardless of whether it's a chain, an independent, someone selling stuff they've bred out of their garage. However it's happening, that should be something that is done.
We're never going to agree, though. That's the issue. I think Maidenhead does well. They've got like a
Maidenhead do really well with that
of species. So as a group of 150 shops, they give pretty similar, very reliable information from shop to shop, which is good. I think compared with your oddball independent retailer, though, and I mean oddball fish as well as oddball owners, I don't know. You're not.
I've got something to say on this. Firstly, I think the second you start banning fish, whether it's like an agreed,
you have a white list.
I mean, if it's going to be an official governmental sort of thing, the government aren't going to be interested in banning fish because of ethics of that fish. That's not going to happen. It's either all fish or no fish. So you've got to be really careful of not. It could be the thin end of the wedge. It's just like, right, we're gonna ban Fago maculata because it can only eat scales, which is sound because it's not a fish that should ever come into the country. It's ridiculous. Nobody should be keeping it because it technically keeping that fish does put the Animal Welfare Act at risk because you've got to feed it live fish. So while it shouldn't be coming in, the second you start banning fish because you can't keep them properly, you end up banning all fish. So we don't want to do that. And the thing is, the big chains know this, so they don't want to get into let's start banning a few fish because they're not fish that should be kept. So they're never going to get on board with let's start banning fish because they're not right to keep. So that's why they have the blacklists and they police that really well. But the problem with that is, while there's always going to be good shops, and I would say the majority of shops are good, and they think about what they're stocking. And this is the Iwata, I think the Iwata sustainable sourcing tool sort of touches on this a little bit, but it could go more into like welfare as well. The problem is you're always going to have a few shops that go, well, they're not selling the stupid stuff, so we can make a couple of quid here by selling the fish that we shouldn't be selling.
You also get shot. I mean, Wharf is a classic. I mean, where do you put Wharf? Because you could go, oh, they've got big catfish, and then you go, but every member of staff is like into it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's really weird for Wharf because they sort of like break the mold in a way, and Pier as well, because they're such big, well-known shops. If anybody's going to have customers that can keep big stuff, it's going to be those two shops, and they know that. And the staff and the owners are responsible, but maybe they're selling fish that you wouldn't deem responsible, but they will be making sure they are being sold responsibly. So it's so, this is why it's so difficult, and it almost has to be like self-policed within, because those two shops kind of should almost have like a free pass to go, well, you can sort of stock what you want within reason because we know you're going to sell it right and you've got the customers. But a little shop with 20 tanks that has just guppies, neon tetras, and then a red-tailed catfish, you look at it and you go, that's not attracting the right customer ever.
I think it just goes back to that honesty thing, though, because we all know from working in shops, right, that it's going to come back and haunt you if you tell people the wrong information, right? You know, if you say that silver shark's going to be fine in your small tank with your neon tetras, and it comes back at 8 inches long, and they go, it's eating my neon tetras, you'll still be there. That will be you. You'll get a bad Google review or whatever, because everyone's so connected now. So I think the honesty thing, I think you should be allowed to stock a species that will go to 3 feet long if you tell them it's going to grow to 3 feet long and your tank is not large enough. If they come in and they've got a tropical pond and they know their stuff, I don't think they should be stopped.
On the flip side of that, the shop's got this fish in that's going to grow to 3 foot. What if they don't sell it before it gets to 3 foot? You've got a problem on your hands there.
So I used to have this other theory that if a shop sells a big fish,
they should be able to keep it to full size
and have it returned in an emergency. Do you know what I mean? So, you know,
because that's their responsibility. Yeah.
And so if it turns up, you know, if a ripsaw catfish, a Pseudodorus niger turns up, you know, in a few years' time and it's 3 feet long,
they should be able to say, fine, okay. We sold it, we'll take it back.
You would hope that, and then someone like Wharf and Pier have that. You know, they have huge tanks,
the facilities. They know the people who could take it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Wharf have the facilities to take massive fish back, but they'd have people. But Pier absolutely do, because they heat the koi ponds in winter. So they can take basically any fish back that they sell.
Wharf has still got some big tanks.
But Wharf would be able to deal with big fish if they came back. I'm certain of that, because they know the people that have. Oh, they do. They've got them two at the front. To be fair, aren't they? They've got them two big tanks. Yeah, you're right. They do have big.
So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Because if we do the kind of concrete, you can have these. I mean, most adhere to it. I mean, you know, 90% of shops will agree that tiger barbs, you know, might nip fins or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Adult angels might eat neon tetras.
Consider this then. If you go into a shop and their biggest tank is 4 foot, you come up with some sort of rule, and you have like just as an honesty thing, you go, well, your biggest tank's 4 foot. You can't sell a fish that grows bigger than a foot.
Agreed. So that's that's what I used to think Pets at Home should have done. So Pets at Home should have sold wholly compatible community fish and that are suitable only for the size tanks that they sell as well, because Pets at Home won't sell you a 5 or 6 foot tank.
Yeah,
if their biggest tank is 3 foot, they shouldn't have a fish.
Shouldn't really have angels. Yeah, they shouldn't really have angels.
Me and Chris, and I'm not going to take the credit for this because it was Chris that thought about this. Was we now, when we're looking at lists, we are stocking to the largest tank that we are aware comes into the shop. If you kind of get what I mean, we know how big that thing is. If that fish is going to get too big for that, we don't know anyone straight away who's going to buy it or could buy it. And that's kind of how it's been for a little while now. And I think that works well.
And I think something else is, the bottom line is, shops don't need to be stocking massive fish. There's so many cool fish that don't get massive. It's laziness to just get the big stuff in. And like Nathan, if you ask Nathan, he'll tell you the same thing. And he's very passionate on this. He says that you can always tell when a shop's starting to struggle because they say, bollocks to it, we'll get big cheap fish in, and it's like a last ditch effort. But if you're doing well, you're a good shop, you don't need to be getting Pangasius in. You don't need to. There's absolutely no need for it, because there's fish that look similar that'll do a similar thing and won't get to 3 foot long.
So I think we've got some common ground.
What do Pangasius do?
Eat and grow.
They eat and grow. They don't do anything else. Most shops, they'll sell you otter cinclus or plex or algae-eating fish, or they'll sell you fish to
brachy-ram deer if you can get hold of them, or something like that.
I think the sensible common ground without creating a blacklist and because the problem with blacklists, as we all know, is that then the anti-pet people get onto it and go, look, they themselves say you shouldn't be keeping this fish. You know, take it off them, kind of thing. Whereas I think that common ground about tank size as a parameter for both the shop and for the hobbyist, I think that works, doesn't it? You know,
I mean,
I'd certainly say
going into a different pet thing, you've got certain breeds of dog are banned, right? So all these the dangerous dogs, etc. In some places, there's breeds of dog that aren't banned, but they're controlled. So if we're in Ireland, if you want a German Shepherd and you want to take it out for a walk, you have got to keep it on a muzzle and a lead. You can't let it off lead, and it has to be muzzled all the time. So something along those lines of, if you want to keep this specific fish in the UK or in England, in Wales, then a specialist license maybe could be a thing. So you've got your generic license for the vast majority of the tropical fish or freshwater fish in the hobby. Then after that, if you want to apply to keep for this fish, specialist license. You can then prove that you've got the knowledge and facilities to care for that fish to adulthood.
You still got the problem with any sort of license, though. It's thin end of a wedge. Once you start bringing in, I mean, I personally, I wouldn't mind seeing it. And like Colin was saying when he was on, like a license isn't such a bad thing, but it's the thin end of a wedge. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, we don't even do dog licensing anymore, so I doubt we're going to get fish licensing.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it would kind of knock out the red tail catfish sales overnight, which would be good. Oh, and there's another point. So these big fish that I'm saying about, if you want a red tail catfish, rehome one. Simple as that, you know.
Yeah, if you can keep it, rehome one. Yeah, absolutely. Don't go buy a little one.
The number of people that say to me, and this happened with marine fish as well, they'd say, you know, I want that fish. And I go, yeah, I've got you one. And they go, no, I want a smaller one. And you're like, but the species grows. It's just you being selfish. I know you want the cute little you know, if you want a red tail, you should go onto a Facebook group, you know, redtailrehoming.co.uk or whatever, and go, right, I've built my tropical pond, I'm ready. And someone will go, right, I'm in Yorkshire, I've got a 3-footer, you know, come and get it. Job done. You know, and that manages it then.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think it doesn't even need to be applied to monsters. We generally, as a rule, don't really stock stuff like Oscars. Because you sit there and they sit. Well, if you think about it in a little less kind of slightly less ethical way, every tank in a shop is money. If that tank has a fish in it and it doesn't move, you're not making any money.
Yeah, and an Oscar takes up a whole tank for itself.
Yeah, and I have kind of a real world example. I had a customer the other day going, "Oh, have you got any Oscars?" No, it's not something we really stock. We end up refusing them more than we sell them. So no, well, you've just lost a sale. And I turned around and I went, I'll be honest, there is enough Oscars sat in sumps in Maidenheads that I do not need to bring any more into the country.
Yeah.
That is not something I need to do. And it goes back to that idea that just if you're really that keen and you've gone to the effort of kind of getting everything ready to look after that fish specifically, go and rehome.
Why do you want the baby Oscar?
From a moral perspective, an animal has been mistreated and you are now in a position to make sure that it kind of gets the best kind of rehabilitation care, get it back to a good, like, fit bill of health and look after a nice fish. But it's like you said, people don't want that. They want that red-tailed cat when it's that big.
They want the small one.
Tries to eat plastic plants. Yeah. It's cute when it's small. So I want
there's enough of them out there on. You look on a Chorus Classified. Or the multitude of Facebook rehoming groups for fish, for pond fish. I'm a member of a few of them. I've helped and I've passed on and I've took fish on myself. So there are out there where you can get that information. You can get the fish. So if you want a specific fish, you can get it, rehome it easily.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm gonna change the direction now and go to this comment from Ethan. Going back, surely another consideration is shops should also know what they're selling. For example, P@H to avoid trademark issues. Shops always have tanks that say assorted cichlids or assorted rainbows. Now, if I could first say, if it's right, okay, no hate, please. Don't give me pelters. If it says assorted cichlids and they're all cichlids which are same in care requirements and compatible, is there an issue with saying assorted cichlids? It probably wouldn't say assorted cichlids. It'd say assorted Malawi cichlids.
Yeah.
What
I haven't got a problem with that.
Is there a problem with that? Because personally, I actually don't. I don't have a problem with that because the people who are going to be keeping assorted Malawi cichlids don't need a taxonomic name. I agree, it's always good to know what it is, but they don't need it as long as the seller, you're giving the correct care requirements and they understand that.
It depends on the Malawi cichlids, though. Because
that's what we're saying. If they were all,
because Malawi cichlids, you could have Mbuna or you could have.
Well, what I'm saying is, as long as the ones
dwelling, open water dwelling,
as long as the ones in that tank are all compatible,
they're all compatible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe,
is there a massive problem for that I mean, look at it this way. You know the sort of customer you're going to get at that shop. It's somebody who's very new to it. Maybe they don't want to go to a specialist shop for one reason or another. If you put on Pseudotropheus Solozai, is Solozai Pseudotropheus? I don't know.
Chindongo now.
Chindongo, right? If you put Chindongo Solozai on there, and then
they don't
also,
know. Yeah.
And also Pseudotropheus elongatus, for example, and you've got them both in the tank, you could keep those together really in the right setup. The customer's not going to go and pick. Oh, I want that one. I'm going to remember the name of it. They're just going to want. I want the blue and black stripy one. And so are you wasting your time going into Pets at Home and then saying, well, it's this and it's from this place? And do you see what I'm getting at there?
Alan's right. Public aquariums are not the rehoming service. It amazes me that public aquariums do still take fish, though, because I just say to people, they're not going to take it, so don't even count that as a plan. And people will come in and go, yeah, I rang up, Blue Planet, and they said they take it, depending on what it is, obviously. But I just think it should just be a brick wall. It should be an absolute flat no. They won't take it. And that way, the word will spread, because so many people still think, yeah, it's all right. In a few years, my fish will go and live out its days in a zoo. And some do, but, it's not right to do that. It's fish keeping. It's not fish swapping, is it? It's not. You wouldn't do it with a dog, would you?
I might be guilty of doing that.
Go on.
I had some Myloplus.
And you want to see them in a bigger tank, don't you?
Yeah, they didn't outgrow the tank that I had, and then I took them to Bolton Aquarium. But to be fair, when I got them, I did agree with Pete. Like, when these outgrow my tank, I'm bringing them to you. And he said, no, you can't do that. And I said, I'm doing it. And he said, no, you can't do that. And I said, I'm doing it. And then I turned up with them. And he said, oh, they're quite nice, actually. They'll go well in the big tank.
So there was an article in, I think it was Fishkeeping Answers, going back to mid-90s. There was a fella who was keeping arowana, and he sort of, the article detailed the number of tanks this fish had gone through, and he was in his final 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot home, and the owner had already arranged, I think, with Blackpool Zoo, for Blackpool Zoo to take this fish once it outgrew this tank. It was already over 2 foot long, so it was outgrowing a 6 foot tank. And that was back then. So it's a lifelong situation where people are relying on zoos, public aquaria, etc., to take on these big fish once they outgrow them, because they either can't or won't get the facilities to keep that fish for life.
Should we go on?
This is interesting, because I guess you could make the argument that, well, we're concentrating very heavily on the idea that we have to treat the customers with these kind of moral kind of obligations. I think you could argue that it could be applied to the fish themselves. If you take that arowana, for example, you have a duty to be fair and make sure that animal goes to a right home. If you don't, you're not treating it fairly. You're putting aside its kind of, and I know obviously Nathan went into the idea of rights last time we had this kind of ethics chat, and we agreed that maybe it's tricky to kind of implement them onto a non-sentient animal. But yeah, you have a duty of care to make sure that animal goes to the correct home. If you're not doing that, can you truly say that you are, certainly from this perspective, actually fulfilling those things? Are you morally in the right place? Sucking it and selling it in the first place.
That's where those checklists come from, though.
It's the honesty, and then, like you're saying, Chris, you could choose not to stock it at all. That is one definitive way of not selling an arowana to the wrong person. You could not get it in the first place, or you may have a customer base that you feel could house it, or a customer who feels they can house it. But again, as long as you stick with the honesty and go, it gets massive, it's long lived, it's going to cost you thousands, it's going to get drop eye, it might jump out, it might do this. The only thing that you can do short of that is not get them in at all. And again, some places do that. So like you, I mean, you're extreme. You're not even getting Oscars in, so I doubt you get arowana in.
That's not something we'd stop.
Yeah.
Not something we'd hold. But
so that's the other way, isn't it? That's the only way is to not stock it, and that way you don't need a blacklist.
But when does that kind of idea that kind of I tell them everything they need to know. Once they take it, it's their problem. When does that almost border into kind of almost ignorance, I guess you'd call it, kind of detaching yourself from that situation and going, well, it's going to get big, and then leaving them with that. For me personally, as kind of someone who obviously does this all the time, I don't think I could comfortably sell that animal and go, yeah, it's going into 150 gallons, but eventually it's going to need a lot bigger. For me personally, I don't think I could do that. But
you can refuse that sale though. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I tell people and then they go, I'll take it anyway, and I go, that's fine. I don't.
Okay.
If I tell them it gets to 3 foot and they can't convince me that they've got a huge pond or a swimming pool, they're not having it. Do you know what I mean? So there's that as well.
And I think that's quite a nice thing that a lot of places hold, is that ability to say no, and it's that responsibility to say no. That's the other thing. Obviously, you can fall into that utilitarianism side of it, where you go, "Oh, well, actually, I'll just give it to them so they are happy because I've reduced the amount of kind of stress and everyone's a winner." Or you can look at it from this perspective and go, "I can say no, and so I will say no because morally that is the right thing to do."
I mean, Alan's got a point, and we haven't quite discussed this yet, and he said it twice tonight. Customers can lie. Customers lie all the time. I suppose with phones we can ask for photo evidence of their tank. I did it actually with an Oscar before I left retail. I think I told you we got this massive Crassipinis Oscar in, biggest one I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen thousands of Oscars. And I wouldn't let it go to a tank less than 700 litres. And I vetted everyone, and by the time I'd left, I still hadn't let it go to the wrong person. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wanted to buy it because it was the biggest, most macho Oscar they'd ever seen. And I wouldn't let it go. I was like, unless you've got 700 litres and a really mature filter and can prove to me, one, that's not an ordinary Oscar, and two, what you're doing, you're not having it. So, it's...
And that's a great point. We need to we're talking about kind of us making sure we follow these rules. Yeah. But there is also the other side of it. We need to make sure, we need to kind of hope and pray that a good proportion of the hobby is going to try and adhere to those rules as well.
I've got a quandary, and it's a horrible one to think about, but it's important. So consider this: there's two shops selling Oscars, right? Shop A and Shop B. Shop A is somebody like Chris Wilson, for example. He's a bad person. No, he thinks about the fishers' welfare.
He doesn't sell Oscars.
No. But listen. Here we go. This is the thing. So we've got a shop that has some. We've got a shop that's got an Oscar in. Shop A. The guy really cares about the fish. He cares about the welfare. He stocks smartly. Maybe it's a rescue fish. Maybe he hasn't even ordered it in. It's just by circumstance that it's there. The guy comes in and, I want the Oscar. Clearly doesn't have the right setup, but willing to pay, right? Shop B has Oscars in. They always stock Oscars. They stock loads of fish that they shouldn't have in stock, right? And that's sort of their thing. Now, if this guy comes into Shop A and he says all this and then he goes, fine, I'll just go get it from Shop B then. What do you do? So I guess the question is the money that is going to be spent on this Oscar, regardless of how ethical you are or not, is that money better in the hands of the ethical shop or the unethical shop? Because one of them's getting the money.
I think you have to break down the question into slightly further into how ethical are you willing to be without turning down fundamentally what you're doing.
Yeah, it's really difficult. You can't really win because you're compromising your own ethics, but you're essentially giving money to the unethical guy. So the same outcome happens, but money goes into the pocket of the wrong person, if that makes sense. But then, on the flip side, if that guy goes bust, another one's going to pop up and take his niche as the rubbish shop that doesn't really think about the welfare of the fish.
It's that long-term game as well, in that a lot of good shops get those customers who then come back after scorning, the other shop. Oh, he sold me an Oscar and he told me it would only get to 8 inches and this sort of thing. And you've just got to sit tight, haven't you? I think sometimes it's about, your selection of fish as well. If you're really into it, you will provide an absolute smorgasbord of amazing fish. They don't have to be big. And, if he doesn't buy an Oscar off you, but he comes back and he buys an L number Pleco, it's a win-win. Not win-win, it's one win, but,
But then again, if you say to him, no, I'm not selling you anything, does he ever come back again? That's the difficulty of it. You can lose a customer as well to the rubbish shop.
No, I think Jeremy's right. I think you have to trust in your own ability. I think if you know full well that you are going to give them good information, you're going to be honest, you are going to do the right thing and make sure that that fish is going to the right place, eventually that person is going to realize that you were right. Are they going to come back and you're going to feel smug as hell? Absolutely. I know I do when it happens to me. But it's making sure you kind of trust yourself. If you let them get to you and kind of say, okay, yeah, you can have it, that's fine. You can't sit there to the next customer and go, nope, you can't have that fish. All comes back to treating people fairly. If you'll do it for one, you should do it for all. If you're not going to do it for one, you don't have to do it for anyone.
Yeah, agreed.
It's tricky.
Should we just quickly go into it, because this is no one agrees on this. What conditions does Beta Splendens, the Siamese fighter, need? Chris, what would you say if someone comes in? Do you even stock them?
Which one? Which Chris?
You, Wilson.
Wilson.
Fine.
Big, large Chris.
We do stock them.
Okay.
We do stock them.
Go. So if someone wants to fight because they're super popular at the moment because of Instagram and everything, someone comes in, they want a beta fish.
Beta fish.
Cool. Okay, fine. So they're coming in, they're going, I haven't got the tank yet, but I'm ready to pretty much take wherever you take them. Say, all right, cool. I'm going straight up and I'm showing them we have a 4-foot Aqua Noctilo tank on display at the shop. So it's 4 foot by a foot deep by a foot front to back. I'll say this is a nice tank for you to go for. You've got plenty of swim space left to right. It's not too deep. It's a faculty of air breathing. It needs to come up for air. So we're making sure that it's not going to be too deep. We're making sure that kind of the substrate is soft, because these fins are super delicate. We need to make sure that they're not damaging themselves super easy. We're going to put multiple levels of height into that tank, because we know full well that going up and down all the time, it's going to get tiresome, especially when that big fin is producing all that drag. And they're going to go, oh, okay, that sounds cool. And I go, cool. We're going to make sure the filtration is adequate, but it's not producing a stupid amount of turbulent flow. The last thing these guys want is to be kind of barreled through the tank by this spinning ball of water. We're going to make sure that it's big enough to deal with the water that's in there, but it's moving relatively slow. Then they're going to kind of go, oh, okay, so just stand to tap water. I'm going to go, no, let me stop you there. I'm going to say, do not read. Be careful what you read online, because you're going to see a KH of 2, a KH of 1 knocking around. That is unsustainable. You're not going to do the maintenance required to maintain that KH. So actually, I'm going to tell them, go a little bit higher. Go 3 or 4. 50% water change once a week, just to maintain that KH and keep the cycle moving. But you're still going to have it soft enough that you can keep a nice kind of fairly neutral, bordering into slightly acidic pH. And they're going to go away and go, oh, that's really good. I feel confident that I'm going to be able to keep this fish happy. You then get the other side of it. One of the customer goes, I've got a 20-litre box and I filled it with tap and I bought Petome beta and now it's dead. Where did I go wrong? And I'm going to go, where do I start?
There's a lot of 20-litre tanks around as well, aren't they? So many people would say, I've got a small tank. And you go, how big? This big? And you gesture and they'd go, 20 litres. And you go, I'd always knee-jerk and I'd always go, that's very small. Regardless of, like we were talking about how you deal with customers, regardless of who the customer is, I will tell them that a 20-litre tank is very small, because it is. People treat 20-litre tanks like we used to treat 54-litre 2-foot tanks.
It's this big. It's this big. It's 20 litres.
How big is the tank?
It's this big. It's 20 litres.
Big.
Yeah.
About 25 litres. And I go,
20
cool.
litres. So it's huge.
That bucket
It's
over
20
there.
litres. Yeah.
So I guess the question is, how small would you go for a better? Obviously, you've shown them
so
beautiful shallow aquarium, but it's 4 feet long.
For me personally, I'm not going to be looking at the volume. Obviously, I'm going to turn around and go, look, anything under this is going to be unsuitable. So I'm saying sort of anything under 30, just ignore it. A big, I'm going to turn around to them, and I know the other Chris is the same. I'm going to look at footprint. I'm going to look at the physical dimensions of the tank, and I'm going to base it off that rather than the volume. So the volume's irrelevant. Tank could be a foot by a foot and 4 feet tall. It holds 70 litres. Wicked. I'm not going to put a fighter in it. Whereas actually, maybe a tank that is 3 foot by 18 inches by 12 inches, perfect. I'm quite happy with that. You've got a fish that's not reaching anything over sort of 8 centimetres. We have a body of water that is suitable for both behaviour and care. They can kind of display a more natural behaviour, and I think that becomes more important. Chris has this this thing that he says to customers, and I've started saying it too. You should not stock a tank, or the biggest fish in the tank should not exceed 1/10 of the tank's length. So you've got a tank with 60 centimetres, 6 centimetre fish. Gives them room to run, gives them adequate space. Doing it like that, rather than going, for this Oscar, you need, or no, we'll go for this African cichlid setup, you need 250 litres, because that's what I read online. It becomes irrelevant. Because actually, or we'll go more extreme, we'll say Tanganique, or go Tanganique and go Frontosas and go, oh, well, yeah, I saw that they need 250 litres. So like, cool. What shape is that tank? What does that tank look like? Is it super long, super shallow? Because it's long enough, but now it's too shallow. That's not going to work. Or is it 4 feet, but then it's like living 3 feet, 4 feet tall? Maybe that would work better. It becomes as much about the footprint as it does kind of the volume. So for like anything benthopelagic, I'm the same with kind of cories, making sure that they have space on the bottom. And it's like I say to customers, they don't really care. As long as the water's not deep, they don't care what's above them. They're on the bottom. A tank is very two-dimensional to a cory. He's not swimming around up here over the time of his life catching stuff in the tank. He's on the bottom looking for food, and then he's going to go up for air and he's going to come back down again. There's so many different ways to think about the same kind of question that I can understand why people get confused. I can understand where that kind of miscommunication comes from, because I can guarantee I've had customers, that better customer that's coming, I've gone, you need this 4 foot tank, or you need this shallow tank, and they've gone to the other shop and he goes, nah, fuck you, absolutely fine for him. Fundamentally, it's still shallow, but actually maybe it isn't suitable kind of to keep them properly. So yeah, I can see where that confusion certainly comes in. It's interesting.
Chris Green, what are your thoughts on better splendens? Obviously, certain forums go mental about it, tank size with betters, and they've got to have a hammock and they've got to have this, that, and the other. Are you kind of, where would you go with it? I mean, are we talking live plants? Are we,
I personally, I would try and set up a tank to replicate the natural habitat. So I would use sort of rice paddy style, no, not rice paddy style, but plants that represent like that, like little Borneo sweet pot, like what's the word? I get confused now. Like sort of shallow water, really heavily planted with various plants, so that you literally, floating plants, stem plants, the full works that you can hardly see. You can't see it, but if you dip your net into it, you pull it up, and you've got a myriad of fish species. But I would go along with what Chris has said. Footprint is much better, much more important. So for me, slightly shallower tank, but longer and wider is far better than a cube tank.
Someone in the panel, someone in the comments asked if long fin betters are even ethical, because those fins can tear. So I had one in a 3 foot planted tank once. It was on its own, heavily planted, and just pacing up and down the 3 foot tank and being super active and loving it. Its fins tore. Do you know what I mean? because it's it's not the fault of the fish. It wasn't really my people say, oh, some plants are sharp. It wasn't the plant stems. It's just that it was ragging its own fins because we've bred it to have this stupidly long, like Chris Wilson says, this drag.
Yeah. I was reading, going away from betters, I was reading a short while back about goldfish, and there's people saying that it should be like so many gallons for the first goldfish, and then so many more, and that's just for the fancy goldfish. So you should be looking at like 40 gallons for the first goldfish, and then another 10 gallons for each individual fish off, 20 gallons each individual fish after that. And then there's someone else come along and they've that's a lot of information, and they'd link to this well-renowned breeder of goldfish. It was in America, who only keeps their goldfish in 10 gallons of water in an American 10-gallon tank. They're well-renowned, and their recommendations are just keep them in 10 gallons per fish. So if you've got 4 goldfish, that's a 40-gallon tank. That's all you need. The evidence was they've bred so many goldfish over the years, and their fish are show-stopping fish. They grow massive, whatever. I mean, this other person then went on to say that goldfish don't grow more than 4 inches, but that's beside the point. But this
is what I'm leading to, though, because, like Alan says, we all know they've been in a whiskey flask for 6 months. We've seen the Thai farms, so to get that show class better, it's been in a tiny, very restricted
bottle, and it's like
whiskey flask,
thousands of bottles, and they just change the water with a special thing. They just put one into one bottle, do the water change.
Now they cut the slot in the glass as well, so they just flood it.
Yeah, so it's amazing stuff, but that's how they're kept.
So this is kind of my issue with it, because you kind of like that male fish looks like that with perfect long fins, because he can't do any damage in that
in a
tiny restrictive.
And they're changing the water, so keeping his water parameters consistent. So there's no build-up of contaminants. They don't need filter because the water's changed multiple times a day in some places.
It's tricky though, isn't it? It's tricky.
But we're not in the Thai fish farms. We're keeping fish in the UK.
And I think that's exactly it.
And there is
but then ethically, it's that thing like tank busters again, though. Every fighter you buy from a UK shop drives the demand for the Thai breeders to breed more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter how we treat our individually bought one, every sale that's made, they'll go, oh, we're doing something right. I'll breed more of them. It's very tricky ethically,
and it goes back to Max's point: is the money going into the right pockets? I mean,
I
think sorry, Max, super quick. I think the ethics of kind of line breeding is an almost entire episode of itself. Kind of but
right, Rebecca.
Do you just stop selling them? You can't. You can't.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Well, there was a point a long time ago in the early 2000s when I was at a Maidenhead, and we didn't sell male fighters because they didn't do well in the systems. Male fighters used to be very weak and poor and crap. Fighters have only been good in the past 10 years, really. Before that, they were all the females. You couldn't keep them alive. They always got bacterial infections. So 25 years ago,
whiskey.
25 years ago, I ran an award-winning Maidenhead, and we didn't have a fighter in the shop, not one. So
I've when I was selling fighters in the shop, we would avoid like ridiculous ones. I mean, Half Moon Clockcats are your toughest.
They are,
shadow of a doubt. They are the toughest fighters you can get. Yeah, but not everybody likes them because they want the fins. So you've got to have a few fancier ones in. But we always found that crown tails would be a bit tougher, maybe because they're a bit more high end. They were treated with a bit more care. I don't know, but they seemed to do a little bit better than just sort of like Singaporean deltas that would just crumble on you basically straight away. So what we'd do is we'd get the fighters in. And my thing was always, there's no point selling fighters cheap. There's no point selling a fighter for less than £25. And that might sound crazy, given how cheap they can be. But the thing is, you can only stick one in a tank, and you can't stick a lot of fish in with it. So essentially, what you've got to think is you're occupying a customer's tank for the next 2 years. They're not going to buy any more fish for that tank. That's how you've got to think. You've got to get your money's worth out of that customer's tank. So you may as well be trying to get 30, 40 quid for a fighter, because that's 2 years that tank's not going to have any money spent on it in terms of fish. So what we'd do is we'd get, and it's kind of cheeky, but it worked. We'd get fish in, we'd put them around the tank, and we'd put a silly high price on. So we'd get some nice half moon placats in. We'd get decent ones. We wouldn't scrimp. We'd get nice fish that are probably worth a premium, but we'd stick a thing on it and we'd go like, say, 60 quid, right? And when the customers were looking, they were like, what fighters have you got? I'll take you around. I'll show you them. There's one here, one here, one here, one here. This is how they look, you know. And they go, oh, I really like that one, but the price is too high. And then you'd go, listen now. Don't tell anybody. I'll do you a deal on it. Because I know you like it and I know you'll look after it. I know it says 70 quid, but for you, I'll do it for 30. But don't tell anybody. Oh, yeah, go on then. Go on, quickly bag it up then. Sell it, go back to my manager. You know that 15 quid fighter? I just sold it for 30 quid.
You raise an interesting point about price though. People treat high-priced fish more delicately, a lot more delicately. Yeah. And once they go into the hundreds of pounds, they start thinking, they start really...
I need to look after this. I need to keep it right. I'm not going to mix it with the wrong things.
Because price seems to equate to rarity, I think.
So price can be an interesting kind of barrier. I mean, price might sort out everything that we've discussed tonight. If you charge enough for it, does that not pre-filter all the wrong people? Do you know what I mean?
It does. Maybe it does.
Some fish, maybe. Well, I mean, going back to clown loach now, like if you look at the clown loaches that are coming in, they're much more expensive than they used to be.
Yeah,
but they are tiny. They are so small that they're still fry. They're not. They're coming across from the wholesalers and they're being shipped less than an inch long. I've seen in some shops, and I'm like, and the shops are charging 15, 20 quid. It's like what?
They need a lot of food at that size as well.
I was looking through the China list that's just come down for us, and they're definitely not a couple of inches. They've got them on there at the minute, a foot long, which is massive. Yeah, they're obscenely expensive. Like you can see why. Like Peer had them, didn't they? They had
they were so big. The ones
you can see now if they were importing them like that, you can see why they cost the money they were costing. Because we took one look at it, and again, if I'm being honest, I'm going to make this sound like the most boring shop ever. Not really something we ever stock. Clown loaches.
You don't see them. You don't see them about as much.
You fish that's going to get to like 15, 16 inches long. Who's keeping that?
When I first got into fish about 2 years ago, as Jeremy would say. Sorry. No, when I first got into fish, clown loach was like your quintessential tropical fish. There were like five fish. Like as somebody who didn't really know much about tropical fish, it was clown loach, neon tetras, tiger barbs, and like one or two others.
Angelfish.
Angelfish, exactly, angelfish, and then probably something else like catfish in general. But clown loach was like you knew what a clown loach was, even if you didn't have a tropical tank. If you'd been in a pet's at home, you knew what a clown loach was. If you'd been to a pet shop, you knew what a clown loach was, because it was, to put it simply, it was quintessential. Nowadays, there's a good chance you go into a shop, you won't see them.
No. They've always been touted as the if you've got pest snails in your tank, get some clown loach, and I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Selling a fish for a specific thing, not giving any consideration to what size tank that person has. Just you've got snails. I'll say a couple. One clown loach. Not a group of clown loach. One. And I'm like, this is a fish that grows over a foot long, and why are you selling it to Bob?
Yeah, Bob, are you in the chat?
He's not. He left early. He's part timer tonight.
He saw Nathan wasn't here and he left.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else? We've got 6 minutes. We're not doing a quiz because we've all done one.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do a double hard quiz. Max, what are we talking about next week? Do we know?
We're going to come up with a subject that I haven't yet come up with, and we're going to discuss it. So it's a surprise. I've had a crazy weekend. But what does everybody want to hear? What do you want to hear? What do you want us to talk about? Is there any type of fish in particular you want us to talk about? Is there any somebody give us some, and we'll talk about it.
We can have takeovers, by the way. I don't know if I discussed this live on air, but we could have like a Wednesday session on Corridoridine catfish. Do you know what I mean? We can have little clubs in clubs if we want that. If someone wants to get on or do a takeover or whatever and talk specifically about one thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the network, the marine guys do it. They'll have like a Sunday one, a Friday one. They'll meet up. You can just do what you want.
Can I make a suggestion, as I will be a viewer next week?
Yes, of course you can.
What about, just crazy idea, maybe look at some environments, maybe take a river and maybe look at it and what it's looking like, what you're finding in it, and maybe how we can apply that to aquariums. That'd be pretty cool.
Like that. I've just seen Alan's put Corys. We've done Corys already.
Corys is a massive subject, though. It could go on.
I know there's more, but we need to do something different before we
biotopes. But yeah, you're right, Chris Wilson. I keep going on about this guy, Rodrigo Silva, who's a Portuguese guy who goes to Thailand. His videos are epic, right? Really well shot. He gets all the rare aquarium fish like Somfong's eye and Betta simplex and all that thing. The water's beautifully clear. There are aquatic plants there, and he knows every aquatic plant as well. It is so good for mirroring in aquariums. You could do, I don't know what, spanner barbs or whatever he sees. Harlequins. He's videoed the biotope for harlequins. It's amazing. That's what we should do.
You just need to get Ivan on.
That'd be cool. A good subject might be for the future.
Jeremy, you need to get on at Ivan. You know Ivan well. We need Ivan on.
I haven't spoken to him for ages.
We'll speak to him.
He's got a book on plants now.
Has he really?
He does. Yeah.
Get him to come on and promote it. Get him to come on and promote it.
Yeah, it's a subject for the future is aquatic societies.
Yeah, we should talk about them.
Go down bad of them.
Do you know what? I keep forgetting. Chris Green, you still an active member of Preston?
I am, yeah.
Do you want to talk to us about it for a bit? Because it's a really successful club.
Yeah, we dipped over COVID, but it's really getting back up on the up now. We're getting, reaching 100 on some of the auctions, over 100 people, over 100 attendees.
That's big. I've been to fish clubs and I've been in fish clubs where membership was less than 10. I went to King's Lynn once. I think there was 4 people.
They've actually got a convention booked for this year.
And they've not invited us to go on as guest speakers. What the hell?
Well, they've not invited you lot, but they have invited someone. But yeah, there's a convention in July.
Chris Wilson, congratulations.
Thank you.
So there's a few people. It starts on the Friday. There's 2 or 3 speakers on the Friday. Then a few more on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, it's a one of the big auctions at the Deepdale Labour Club, just around the corner.
It's moved, doesn't it?
Preston's ground, yeah. The club's doing really well.
Meet up there?
Maybe we should. When is it?
First Tuesday every month.
No. The convention.
The convention is 11th of July.
This year.
I
think I'm going on holiday then. That's a
shame.
shame. I'll double check. If we're not, we should absolutely go and get everybody there. Get all 3 of our listeners there.
Yeah, you can laugh at me when I do my
Fest.
That was Ian Fuller's
thing.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's the week after, I think. Is it the week after or the week before?
Max won't pay for a convention.
If anybody wants to donate for me to go to Preston convention, much appreciated.
Yeah, but yeah, Preston, first Tuesday every month, Deepdale Labour Club, Deepdale Social Club. It's good. Sometimes I have guest speakers, sometimes we have occasionally there's food. There's always some good stuff in the auctions.
The auctions are good, aren't they? Cheap fish.
Yeah. Well, some it's weird because some of the fish are really good quality, really good and cheap. But sometimes you'll get people in bidding wars, and they'll bid up, and by the time you average the cost of a fish, they're bidding for like a £2 worth, £2 worth of guppies, and they're paying 20-30 quid.
Yeah,
because they just get caught in that bidding frenzy.
Well, I bought a book from there in an auction, and it was on Better Splendens, and I paid about £2, right? Thought I got a bargain. Opened it, inside it said £1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's still a bargain with it, whether that's the RRP or not.
When I was selling.
Probably. Cool. And with that, I think we're drawing to a close. No Nathan tonight. Sorry about that, everyone. He's coughing and spluttering, but
you're welcome that he's not here. We wish him the all the best in recovery. We don't know if he will recover.
It's touch and go.
It's very touch and go. So, F in the chat for respects for Nathan. I'll start.
Thanks to guest panelist Chris Wilson for the second time on ethics. Thanks, Chris. Thanks to Chris Green for stepping in as the other Nathan.
Stunt double.
Yeah, and we'll come up with something different. And thanks to everyone for watching. Max,
let's do the credit. Well, remember to do an F in the chat for Nathan, please. There'll be decent food at Nathan's funeral. I hope there is.